Hey everybody, welcome to Profiling Evil by Mike King. It's choir practice, and I'm here with Chris McDonough, who's on the road tonight. Chris, do you even care to tell which city you're in?
Mike, I'm in Georgia, and I'm going to the Georgia Department of Correction, so I'm headed to the prison.
Good.
Not to check in, by the way.
Yeah, make sure you get some lasagna while you're there. Folks, welcome to choir practice. To all of you who have signed in already, we're so thrilled to see you. I already have seen that Larique Shoreland is a new member. Chris, that's pretty dang cool. Sandra Chapman, Sophie, it's so good to see Sophie each week. Darcy Ann 66, thank you so much. And to all of you, thanks for all the kindness and this week, the little notes that you've sent. Beth Hind, Cherry Long, 77 MCI. It's been a busy week. I want to start right off with somebody out of your neck of the woods in California. Chris, why don't you share a little bit of news?
Hey, so we got the California Department of Corrections just got a new customer. His name is Roy Charles Waller. He was sentenced for 897 years. He was known as the NorCal rapist, Mike. Remember? This guy, it's good to have him off the street and hook him and book him. That's
great. How many victims did he have? Do you know?
I don't recall, to be honest with you, but he went from 91 to 2006. That's how long he was out and about. So he was a bad guy.
Holy cow! 15 years on the lam. That's amazing. Well, to all those victims, I'm sure that is a relief. And hopefully he'll never see the light of day after that. It also was an interesting week for those that caught the little video clip I put out on Jean-Luc Brunel, the French socialite that was tied to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And that, frankly, has just gone crazy on YouTube, that little discussion that we had where we talked about grooming tactics. And folks, I hope you'll go back and look at it if you didn't. And weigh in on the chat here, please, about those grooming tactics, because they seem so simple, and yet that was really a powerful message to get back out to everybody. So thanks everyone for passing that on. Chris, we have just seen people growing and our channel growing like crazy. I want to ask everyone to please consider subscribing, hit and ring the bell, and thanks for all the support that you're giving us. Anything you want to get off your chest before we jump into tonight's guests?
You know, Mike, no, I mean, everything's going great. We're grateful. I mean, the great roll call tonight. I mean, we got red like wine again. I mean, everybody's up and with us, and we're grateful for that. And good job on some of the lead-ins and some of the grooming tactics as a whole. I mean, that's very important information. I'm glad you're always on top of that and keeping people informed. So this is a good thing. We got a lot going tonight. Who's on the roster?
Well, I'll tell you what, I am really pumped up, and this is going to be something I want you to pay close attention to tonight, because you're staying in a motel or a hotel somewhere. But I want to bring in Brent White and Tim Roberts from We Hack People, and these guys are incredible. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
This is your first choir practice. Did you have any idea what choir practice was?
I've heard that term before, but I wasn't quite sure until you kind of clued me in on exactly what it is. So
I'm just glad I'm not having this thing, so nobody wants to hear that.
Well, so and for everybody that's listening, that maybe if there are any new people, choir practice is that old term from law enforcement, where at the end of our shift, we'd get together with the seasoned guys, the old salts would get together at the end of the shift, and they would debrief about the kinds of things that happened. There'd be a lot of laughter and sometimes a little bit of sadness, and it was a way for people to kind of offload all that ugliness that cops end up seeing on their shift. But Brent, take a minute and tell us about We Hack People, and Tim, just feed into that, and you guys tell us how on earth the two of you came together and what your mission is, because it is amazing.
Well, Tim and I met in prison, and no, I'm just kidding.
I thought it was sushi chef school. Look at the knives behind
that was part of it. But seriously, we're actually childhood friends. We grew up together, and information security and phone phreaking, phone hacking, and all that stuff. Something that we were always sort of interested in when we were younger, and we ended up just getting into the same career field. I actually moved for a while. We hadn't seen each other for a while. And Tim calls me on the phone. Long story short, we end up working at the same company. So you asked about wehackpeople.com. That's our personal blog. It's not a business. It's just where we document a lot of these findings and research and information that we gather as information security professionals. And it's geared towards our passion of covert entry, physical intrusion, things like that. It's just something that we really enjoy. It's our conference presentations, again, our research for custom-made tools, entry techniques that we use, how to fix those things, and so it's kind of a big library of things for covert entry.
Cool.
Hey, yeah, Tim, add to that.
Yeah, like Brent said, we grew up together. So we've been doing a lot of covert entry against anything from commercial to government, whether it's state and local or federal, doing security assessments. And that includes hacking, not just physical security. Although this is what Brent and I talk about a lot: is covert entry, getting access into sensitive areas, and then plugging into servers and hacking away, and then writing reports on how to fix it. But in addition to that, like Brent was saying, like the We Hack People page, it's a repository of all our thoughts. So after we do a lot of presentations, we speak at a lot of events, hacker conventions, security conventions, and stuff. So it's kind of a repository for that. It's a good resource for tools and links and such.
That's cool.
Yeah. So describe what a hacker convention is. I mean, that to most of us, that sounds kind of. Oh, I'm wondering what that is.
Yeah,
it's where you break into cars.
Right. So a lot of people, I think there's a misunderstanding of the term hacker, which is kind of a subjective title, I suppose. But a hacker isn't just it's not a criminal. It's somebody that finds creative ways to make things do things that they weren't intended to, or it's a broad statement. So a hacker convention in short, it's a security convention. So you go there, and there's anybody from hobbyists to professionals to law enforcement agents going there to share information, to get information on current vulnerabilities, exploits, how to fix those. And one of the solid things to understanding how to remediate against vulnerabilities is to understand how to exploit. And so that's kind of the approach that a lot of these take. Is here is an issue. Here's how I can exploit it, and here's how you can fix it. And so it's always good to find a community of people willing to share that information.
So what's the number one hack today? What's on the top of the plate?
Oh, that's an easy one. That would be the backdoor in the SolarWinds product that has plagued several systems, agencies, and so on.
Go into that, Brent. Tell us a little more about that.
So, well, I mean, there's so many articles and things that, there's a lot of speculation. There's also a lot of research that's been released by groups such as Microsoft, FireEye, and so on. Basically, what it comes down to is supply chain security. Just very sophisticated attack through intelligence and just taking your time and finding a way where you can basically create a backdoor into a service that is sold to manage IT things, like servers, passwords, things like that. And so it was obviously a very big hack and a very well planned, from what we've heard so far, state-sponsored attack. So.
Yeah, and outside of that, one of the primary attack vectors, and this is something that Brent and I talk on a lot, is social engineering. This, as far as them getting the initial foothold, it's still kind of up in the air. But, I think in general, social engineering is oftentimes the way to bypass hardened security systems or even doors. So, most of the time, even when we're breaking into facilities or trying to compromise some secret area, it's because we followed behind somebody and pretended we worked there or we're nice to someone. It's not necessarily, going through and picking locks or, compromising electronic access controls or anything like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Chris, these guys have some stuff that I asked them to kind of cover, and I want to just kind of turn the time over to them. But will you guys mind if Chris and I just interrupt you from time to time, like, especially when you show him how easy it is to break into the hotel room he's in?
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Hey, but I do have a cellular question when you guys are done, so don't forget to remind me to ask you.
On our presentations, back in the day when we could meet in person, one of the things that we always say to people is, we encourage questions and we even encourage heckling if you feel up to it. So, whatever you want to throw at it, we're good with it. So,
awesome. So we're going to ask questions. So we're going to ask Tyler and Skylar in the back office to just push questions up as they come in from people, and we'll have some fun with that.
Yeah, you're talking to old homicide cops, buddy. You'll get them both here.
All right, hey, bring it on, man. We're good. We're good with it.
Yeah, and they're already getting a little creeped out over the stuff hanging on the walls in your office.
Yeah,
Tim,
exactly.
So.
Just so you know, like I run a stunt show when I'm not breaking into places. So I sword fight and stuff like that. So yeah, I've got.
Do you swallow those things? Do you eat those things?
No, I just fight with them.
Okay, I'm just asking.
I don't
for a friend.
In any way. So.
Well, right. I have to say, you're the only friend I've got that sword fights, so this is pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah. So if we want to jump into those slides again, there's quite a bit of information. We try to not put too much because we didn't want to feel like we were speeding through the content. So, if we're not able to make it through all these slides, not a problem. We can share this information online later for those who are interested.
Well, great. And while you're prepping up for that, I want to just welcome Paradigm of Beneficence, one of the new members that we have on the channel. So go for it, guys.
All right. Well, just so you guys know too, I have a second monitor over here, so if I keep looking, that's why. So I'm Tim Roberts, and of course it's Brent White, as we mentioned. Don't think we need to go into any further in that, but what we're going to be covering today is just kind of some basics for security awareness for residential, so for your home, just some things to keep in mind, some tips and tricks you can do, and then also for hotel and traveling security.
And so something I want to sort of say before we really dig too deep into this, what we're going to show you is sort of the low-hanging fruit. So a lot of times when a criminal is looking for a residence to break into or something, they're going to go for the path of least resistance. It's very rare that someone would target you enough to, a skilled attacker would target you enough for some of the more sophisticated bypass attacks that Tim and I use during work for corporate or whatever different environments. So for residential, this is like the very basic, most commonly used entry points for attacks against residentials. So.
Well, no, that's really good. And actually today we released a little video where we just talked about, with the holidays and everything else, things to kind of secure your home. And so this is really timely, and we're really looking forward to being able to rebroadcast this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're hoping to help out with. And so if we just jump right into this, alarm systems, that's one of the first things that people consider when they're thinking about home security is, I need to get an alarm system. A lot of times the cheaper route is to just go online, go on Amazon or something and buy the first thing you see. It's really important to note that when you install this stuff, you don't have experience with anybody or with any of this, that you should seek, some professional consultation, at least for camera placement, for your window sensor placement, but also just, getting rid of those default credentials, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we talk about smart homes. But a lot of times when people will set up these systems, they'll have it tied up to their home network, and they'll have a weak wireless password or something like that. And these are things that you don't want to do, and you don't want to have something misinstalled, or the sensor not reaching to its full potential, and it's only a lot of blind spots in your home or anything like that.
Yeah, tell them about the camera too, right? The pinhole camera. Can somebody see into it? Can they hack it?
Oh yeah, so that's one of the. I think that actually might be the next slide. You sort of basically you get what you pay for. I know Tim just touched on professional installation. This is actually a picture that I took during an assessment. This was on the exterior of the building. You can see the cord hanging down. That's actually the power cable, and that is the power plug right there. So obviously, it doesn't take a genius to figure out how to disable that camera if you're wanting to. So the whole reason I use this, if you're not sure about where to place these things, how to install them properly, have a professional do that for you. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money. And as far as hacking into cameras, on the previous slide, we mentioned some pros and cons against wired versus wireless systems. With wired systems, they're a bit more secure in that you don't have the wireless protocols that can be attacked. Negative about wired systems, though, is that obviously there's a lot more installation required there, so the cost is going to go up. So it just sort of depends on what your needs are. And again, a professional will help you determine what makes the most sense for your residents.
I find this interesting too. A lot of people get pet cams. So when they leave for the holidays or something like that, or if they're leaving their pets there, they get these cheap pet cams that are tied to their network so that they can remotely access those. And anybody will install those without changing the default settings on it. So it's easy to kind of guess, to fingerprint what that camera is if you have access to the network. So let's say I capture a handshake, get into your home wireless network, scan, and then I'm like, oh, they've got a home camera system. It's going to prompt me for a username and password. And if you've never changed that or changed those settings, it's easy for anybody to kind of access that camera, and then that's scary in and of itself.
Admin. If your home router or your security camera to log in is admin, or admin pass, then please change it, because that's default. And you buy a lot of these really cheap things like Huawei or something that comes from China that's just manufactured very cheap. Sometimes there is the risk of there being a backdoor built into that already, or it's just very outdated and they're not going to provide something to help mitigate some vulnerabilities that are known for those protocols that they use. So maybe we should move on. I think we could probably talk about cameras alone for a really long time. So contact a professional.
So as far as placement and stuff, again, the professional is going to help you with that. But don't have your camera facing the bathroom or your bedroom or anything like that either.
Yeah.
The most sensitive areas, of course, is the point of exit, point of entry. This includes windows, back doors, front doors, and things like that. And having a lot of lighting too. A lot of people don't consider that. They'll have my camera's a night camera. Well, that's great. The lighting is also a deterrent.
Yeah. And I'm sure you guys, police officers probably have a lot of instances where camera placement is poor. So when someone is breaking in, you only see the top of their head or like part of it because the camera is at a very bad angle. Put it at somewhere where it's actually going to help. So again, we can talk about cameras for a long time.
I saw an image from a bank the other day, and it was next to an image from the Mars landing rover, and the image on the rover was better than the bank.
Isn't there even a requirement where it has to be a certain DPI now before it can even be used as evidence?
Gosh, I don't know. I've been out of the game a while. Chris?
Shit, what was the question?
If
For
there's
cameras?
a certain quality of image that has to be presented to be evidence.
Yeah, 1080 minimum.
1080. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember
Yeah.
because I know some of those cameras, again, cheaper cameras are not going to have that resolution that you need. So, it's not going to be, the correct evidence you might need. So.
Yeah, and there has to be stamp on it too. I mean, you've got to be able to validate that the chain of custody is correct. Hey, so a lot of questions we get that Mike and I get sometimes with our listeners is about laptop cameras. What's your thoughts on that?
Cover them up.
Yeah, cover them up. Laptop cameras, I mean, even if it's a piece of black or like electrical tape or something to stick it over there, if you're not using it, you should cover it up. Yeah. The biggest tip I can give somebody for that is to make sure that your system, whether it's your laptop, whether it's your tablet, desktop, whatever, that you're patching it. So make sure that you're updating it. That's how hackers usually get in. If you're not clicking on some kind of malicious link and giving them, opening the door for them, they're going to exploit, and it may not be one hacker just thinking it. This may be a bot that's out there scanning for vulnerabilities on the internet or whatever site you visit. But the main way they get into there is if you have an unpatched system. So you got a vulnerable system, I'm going to exploit a vulnerability that's known, or unless I have some kind of 0-day, and then get access to your system, and that can lead to a whole mess of things other than just getting access to your camera.
So everybody, you hear what these pros are telling us, right? You got to make sure that if you see that light on your laptop, am I right, guys? That's usually an indication somebody could be, kind of coming through the back door if I'm on top.
Yeah. So
right?
The light is generally a good indication that it's being used, but again, I wouldn't trust that the light is always going to come on.
Okay.
So you can edit that in like some of the registries and stuff like that to get rid of the light notification.
Yeah, there are stealthy ways, and I know you'll hear Tim and I probably go into quite a bit more technical detail. So because we're used to presenting at hacker conferences, so if we need to explain some of the things a bit more, please let us know. But yeah, basically, as Tim mentioned, patch your systems. If you're not using your camera and it's one that's built into the laptop, then they make camera covers that you can place over it, and when you remove it, it's not going to have residue that will blur your image after you've removed it. And so there are simple steps that you can take.
Okay.
Mike, what else we got? Mm-hmm.
We mentioned smart home automation. Again, if you're, for example, if you're using Google Home or stuff like that, make sure that you're configuring that your network is hardened, that you don't have it open to anybody just to connect to your network and then get access to a lot of your smart home stuff. So a lot of your IoT things, accessing cameras, doors, adjusting your heating, air, lighting, electronics, things like that. It kind of baffles me that how many people just out of the box plug something up and they're good to go. They don't configure it, or they don't, what we would say harden it. So the way to harden it is changing default things, making sure it's patched, and making sure your network's hardened. Your neighbor's not stealing your Wi-Fi.
Hey, let's take this question from.
Yeah, take that question.
Yeah, let's take this question from Darcy Ann. How do you protect those little baby cams in nurseries? Of course, we've seen lots of news on that, and that's a fear for every parent, I think.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I've seen some research and things and some pretty creepy videos where someone will just hack in and start talking through the monitor. So again, this is the same along the lines of security cameras. You get what you pay for. If you buy a really cheap baby monitor system, it's a lot easier for a malicious user in the area that is, trying to hack Wi-Fi, or if you've connected it to the internet and you haven't changed the passwords, as Tim mentioned with cameras, then it's basically open to the same attacks as any sort of security camera. So one of the ways you can help prevent that is buy a trusted name brand. Again, don't go super cheap with something you've never heard of before. Usually something from a major retailer is going to be a bit more trusted than something that you've, again, maybe from an online store that sells a brand just from anywhere. So
yeah,
that's a quick, easy way.
Yeah, and just make sure you're looking at reviews too. So do some research. Don't just don't just say, okay, this is the cheapest one and it's got 5 stars, and then you realize that only 3 people have reviewed it, and it's probably the manufacturer that gave themselves reviews. So look at the review. That happens too. Look at the reviews from real people. Use Google. Search out. To say, hey, what's the best camera I can get, and then look at security reviews. There's a lot of websites out there that'll do that as well.
Hey, Tim, take this question. We talked backdoor, but some people don't know what the backdoor is. Yep. So maybe you could just explain that real quick.
So backdoor means they gain access to, let's say, your system, and then they put what's called a malicious payload. Basically, let's say a virus. They open up something so that they can go back and access that, even if you change how they initially got access to the system. So let's say they guess your password and they get access to your network, and then once they're in there, they'll put in a way to get back in there, like using the back door. They'll find a way to get back in there, even if you change your password later on. So that's what that kind of means, is establishing a way to get into something that it wasn't intended to do.
Yeah, and a lot of the cheaper products too, we see this with a lot of devices that connect, whether it's a camera or an appliance of some kind. The cheaper Internet of Things or IoT is, as Tim mentioned, whether it's got a virus that can easily be installed on it. When they're making these, they will hard code a developer password that really can't be changed, and security researchers or attackers can sometimes figure those out. And then, like Tim said, they can still log in and they don't even need the actual username and password because they have their own hard-coded developer credentials that you don't even know about. So that's what we mean.
So I can tell right now, fellas, you're going to be coming back, if you will, because there are so many questions popping up here. We're going to want to dig deeper, but you got some really cool content that I want you to kind of get into if you can.
Sure, absolutely. So we mentioned, this just real quick. So when you set up your Wi-Fi, if you want to take a screenshot of this or a picture of it, but we'll have the slides on our website too. But use WPA2 encryption. Don't broadcast your hey, here's my Wi-Fi, and use a strong password. So don't, I know a lot of people like to use things they can remember. You can do that, but make it long. Length is very important for passwords. So if you're able to make that thing 13 characters, an example is I enjoy taking long walks in the morning, 1, 2, 3 exclamation point. That's easier for you to remember, and it's more secure. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, Tim, if you want to jump back real quick. So that image in that previous slide, that's one of my antennas that it was being used for surveillance for a particular area. And if we, let's say an attacker were trying to gain access to you specifically, they would know, okay, this person's dog's name is Fluffy, or their grandkid's name is, Sarah. And so those are going to be things that they will try as your passwords.
Yep.
Interesting.
So earlier we mentioned lighting too, so making sure that you have, you can put motion sensor lighting, security lighting, but the primary reason for that is not to just say, hey, look at my beautiful house, but it's to say, you can be seen trying to get into these windows. So, a lot of times people will try to go to the low lit areas if they're going to, try to break into a window or a back door or anything like that. So floodlights, motion sensor, security lights, perimeter lighting.
This is fantastic. Almost every predator I ever dealt with, Chris, I don't know about you, but they didn't come in when it was well lit. And this idea of crime prevention through environmental design is huge, and is probably the least expensive way that you could fortify your home.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so, like doors and windows, this is just a silly image that we like to use for
absolutely love this.
So even when you're home, or obviously when you leave certain areas, it's obviously best to keep things locked. Don't forget to lock your windows. You're going to hear us talk about windows quite a bit. So make sure those things are locked, and we're going to actually get into a bit more of locks to use as well.
Yeah, even with those windows too, and I think we touch on it later on in this presentation, but you can buy cheap sensors and stuff that are just audible sensors. So making sure you're replacing the batteries in them, sure, but just even those audible sensors can help if it's not within your budget to get anything else.
Great.
Don't hide keys in things like this. Criminals are very well aware, especially career criminals. They know what fake rocks look like. Okay, they know what a lot of these products are that are sold to hide keys. So if you do need to keep a spare key somewhere, use your own imagination, be creative, but don't. We highly recommend not using the same thing that many other people also use that criminals know about. So.
Yeah, and you may look at this, it's got a combination lock on it, but these are easy to bypass.
Yeah.
So, it's a false sense of security for the most part. But plus, if someone finds it, they're just going to break that thing open anyway.
So how do you feel about then those like 5-button keypads for doors?
There's certain ways to bypass those too, but if you're looking at certain things like a lot of quick set locks or your standard residential locks, it might have a fancy keypad, but they also will have a keyway, and we have a video in here, a few videos of how we can bypass those pretty quick, and recommendations on how to fix. But I was showing this is a basic shim that can be at Tim's got one. We've got all sorts of tools like this, that combination lock that's shown on there. We can just figure it out in a few seconds. So
yeah. And then also, don't put your keys above your doorways or underneath your rugs. People do that all the time. It's real bad.
Keep going, guys. We're rocking, man.
Yeah. Doors and windows. Again, so we have quite a few slides again on doors and windows. Obviously, talking about ways to get into your house, to the doors and windows. So that's what we're going to focus on that a bit. So. Poor locks. So, hey, Tim, why don't you go ahead and, okay, so these are tools. I think that image got cut off, but I have some of those tools here that we can use where we can basically just push the latch out of the way. The piece of plastic and the piece of the sparrows, those are tools that I have used to get into pretty much every single location, whether it's, corporate or what. So, and we'll show some examples here in a second.
So can you pick a lock as quickly as those cool guys on television when they, like the cop that pulls out?
It depends on how Hollywood you're talking. If it's like super Hollywood, probably not. But if it's more realistic, then sometimes you get lucky.
And people use a lot of, and we'll show this in a little bit, but I'm going to just show this now. But people, you can shim a lock real easy without having to pick it. And that's using a shim. And so we'll show that in a video here. But yeah, people, picking a door lock and stuff like that. If you're keeping the same old quick set lock core or something like that, it's easy to bypass. But here in this video, Brent is showing this shim. So people think, oh, it's the credit card trick. Well, it's not quite. It's close. But this piece of plastic is specially made is both flexible and strong enough to do this, so that it can slide around that door instead of having that direct access that a credit card would do, and then it breaks off or something. So this is a video of Brent doing that.
Plastic.
Incredible.
So they sell that?
Yeah, so it actually comes in a nice leather pouch, and
does it come with 30 years prison sentence?
Yeah, if you buy it and use it, you're not supposed to, then yeah. And again, everything that we do, obviously, and that's a good point. Everything we do, this is our job. This is legal. We have been asked by the people that we're breaking into their buildings. They're paying us to do this so that we can tell them how to fix it. So don't do any of this if it's not your job and you don't have permission and it's not something you own. Don't do it, because it's breaking and entering, and that's obviously illegal. So yeah. So I think go back one slide real quick, Tim. So how to fix that? How to mitigate this? So a lot of these strikers, you can see the security pin or the security plunger. So make sure that your lock has this. And where a lot of people go wrong is when they install it, the security plunger isn't pressed. It's not engaged. So if that's not engaged, then we can easily shim the lock, or the credit card trick, or so many other tools where we basically just push that out of the way and open the door. So call a local locksmith. If you're not sure how to fix this or if it's installed properly, call a local locksmith, have them come out and make sure these are installed properly so that you can actually take advantage of the security features that are on your locks.
So lock bumping, a lot of these older tumbler locks, there's these pins in it, and what you kind of think of when you think of lock picking. Been around for a long time, and there's a lot of ways to get around them. So a lot of these older locks, you can do what's called lock bumping. So this is a keychain full of bump keys. What does that mean? Well, at the very bottom, if you look at your key, you'll see that they have bitting. They have different teeth. So what you do is the criminal will save these all the way to the bottom. And so what happens is when you hit the back of this key, it causes all of those pins to go up, and that's how the lock opens. So it's called bumping. So what happens is they get a hammer, and they'll bump the key as they turn it. All the pins will go up, and then it opens the door. So in this video, if we go back to the presentation, this is me doing that to a door.
So you. This is a first for me. I've seen, and I've been in this game.
Yeah, can you make the video full screen there, guys?
Yeah.
So, 2 taps is all it took. And again, this takes practice. It's not something you can just pick up online and do it right away. We've practiced this quite a bit in our own labs.
Now, is that a deadbolt?
Yeah. So some of the older deadbolts, it'll work against deadbolts or regular the handle locks.
Okay, what's the fix?
So there are actual locks that you can get that they'll say they're bump resistant or whatnot. So you can do stuff. You can look for that. So just research anti-lock bumping locks. But there's a lot out there that you can do that. Or you can use something other than tumbler lock, like a dimple lock or handle lock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just like cameras, just like any sort of device, even with locks, even with padlocks, you get what you pay for. So you'll see a lot of those, things that you can just go buy from Home Depot or Walmart that are really cheap. They're cheap for a reason. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you're not sure, local locksmith.
Yeah, and here's a few recommendations too for some deadbolts.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they have security ratings for locks, and so if we can kind of go back, I don't know if this is something that you might want to share with the viewers, because there is a bit of detailed information here. So with ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, they have different grade levels for locks where they have professionals that will attempt to bump it or pick the lock, just different bypass techniques, and they will rate it off of that. So grade 1 is the best. So when you're shopping for a lock, if you look for ANSI grade 1, that's going to be one of your more secure residential locks.
Yep.
Great.
This is great information, guys. We're grateful you guys are here. This is good.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're happy to do it. So having your security pins, so you're having your hinges, if they're externally facing and they're accessible, sometimes you can use something like, this is called a bang it tool. You see that little pin there, you just line it up. There's other tools you can use that are spring loaded, so you pull back and it'll pop it, but it pops that hinge out very quickly. And as you can see in this video, how quickly that's done.
Yeah, so if you don't have the lock, or maybe they do have a nice lock and you can access the pins, just take the door off the hinges.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Same thing when you install these hinges, like even for your hinge, for like a padlock, having those screws externally facing, I've seen people take like a Phillips head screws to attach those hinges. It doesn't matter how great your lock is or strong your hinge is, if I can just take a screwdriver and remove the hinge altogether.
Yeah, there you go.
So quick fix. I know a lot of the stuff we show you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. And it is, if you feel like you're at risk for someone to perform these attacks against your residents for entry. So if you see to the right of the video, this is not any particular endorsement. This is just a quick example of a hinge pin. So basically what happens is you remove one of the standard screws on the hinge and you put that pin in there. Now, if someone actually takes the pin out, like Tim's showing in the video, and they do that with all three and then they try to remove the door, that pin is actually in the door frame and you're not able to slide that door off. And these are super cheap. So that's a very quick, all you have to do to install those is unscrew 2 screws, leave one out, put one of the security pins in, and you're done. So,
yeah. And some of these slides we might kind of go through fairly quickly like this. Just keep your windows locked. We mentioned that. Use metal locks, not plastic ones, because those can be broken if if someone wants to strong arm their way in. Plastic windows lock. You can use a wooden dowel rod to prevent the windows from raising. There's also metal ones if you want to use that. Don't use like something super weak. Something thick that will prevent a window that you're not using for raising is a quick fix for a weak lock.
So we've actually, on the plastic sash locks, we've actually popped those just by putting a small screwdriver at the bottom of a window and just putting a little leverage, and they just pop and the window comes right open. So use something better than plastic.
We'll also talk about some hotel stuff too, but these kinds of doors you'll see a lot at hotels, and a lot of times people will keep these open and they'll forget to lock them. If someone's able to climb up, if the back, or just go around the back of the hotel and get over the little balcony area or whatnot, keep that in mind to make sure you're checking all the doors at your hotel. But also, back we mentioned the dowel rod. There is an actual tool like this that will expand for these sliding doors that you can sit there so that the doors won't slide open.
So this image is actually from a hotel room from a conference that we were presenting at. And I didn't have that rod that's pictured or a dowel rod. So something that I was able to make use of is a door wedge or a door stop, and kind of had to shove it in there. And it was a quick temporary fix, something just to make it a little bit harder, especially since I was on the ground level. So garage doors, there are some attacks, there's some tools that you can get, and all of this stuff that we use publicly available tools just to show impact, like, hey, this is how easy some of this is. You can see the string hanging, that's the release latch. If your power is out and you need to get out of your garage, you can just pull that and it disconnects the garage door from the chain, so you can just lift it up. Well, there's a long tool that actually slides between the levels of your garage door, and you can hook that and unlatch it from the outside and then open the garage. So if you're going to be leaving for an extended period of time, or you're concerned about someone doing that, all you have to do is really, really shorten that, or put it up in a way where it's still there when you need it, but it's not just hanging for an attacker to hook it with a tool and unlatch it.
Yeah, and you can put a C clamp on there too. If you got one of those laying around, if you don't want to trim the string, here's a few different tips on here that are listed here. Also, frosting your windows if you have them. That way criminals can't look in there and say, "Oh, there's some really nice equipment in here that I'm going to steal." So frosting those windows is also another handy tip on your garage and your doors.
And Tim, that just made me think of something too. You're talking about criminals looking through windows. Another tip too, especially around Christmas, is if you get like a nice new TV or a nice new electronic or something that's a hot commodity, when you take your trash out, do something in a way where you're not broadcasting to everyone on that street, "Hey, I've got this brand new PlayStation 25 that's out of stock and nobody can buy," or whatever. Just keep in mind that what you set out there, or what's visible from your windows, you aren't the only one that sees that. So just keep that in mind.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
We mentioned earlier some hinges. This is just an example picture with a flathead hinge there. So, just make sure that you're attaching these hinges for your sheds and stuff like that. That you're being mindful of how you're attaching them.
Yeah, shouldn't you be attaching that so that the latch actually folds over the top of the screw?
Yeah, there are latches like that.
Okay.
I would recommend.
It's great stuff.
Yeah, so we're talking about we talked about locks and we're talking about padlocks. Tim showed you just a second ago in his hand how quickly he shimmed open a padlock. This is a brand new master lock. It's a cut-proof padlock, so weather-resistant, cut-proof. However, this is a lockpick rake, and you can see in this, when I recorded the video, it actually took me a little longer than it usually does. But so I picked that. Now what I'm going to next is a Master Lock 575, which is standard military issue lock. And this one receives the same treatment as the other Master Lock. You can see as well at the bottom, all of those. I'm sure everyone has seen all of these locks. And if you can see something they have in common, they're all the same brand. Again, you get what you pay for. Not to completely knock on that particular brand, but they do have some good padlocks. But when we're teaching people how to pick locks for the first time, these are the ones that we get for them. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah, and if you've got a trailer too, I see a lot of people use this lock in particular on their trailers. This thing is super easy to pick. I always recommend your trailer locks. A lot of times you're going to have some sensitive stuff in there or things you want to protect. So that's how quick that can be picked. It's ridiculous. So just because it says master doesn't mean that it.
What's the lock? Tell us the right one.
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
I think it's actually the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I think
we'll skip this since I showed you guys how to shim earlier. I'll just breeze through this.
The black things, those are what Tim is referring to when he's talking about a shim. It's just a piece of metal that you actually squeezes down in between the latches and pops the lock. They have padlocks that use a ball bearing instead, and those are actually resistant to most shimming techniques. And these can be made out of soda cans, so you don't even have to spend money to buy these. So
what happens is the teeth where it connects in there on the shackle, that's what you're kind of making a little ramp for it to slide over and push away that bar, that shackle.
Yeah, it's basically the same idea as the credit card attack on a door. It just pushes it out of the way.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we go. So this is as a very basic example of a dimple lock key. You can see the key. It's not your standard pin and tumbler lock where Tim was showing how you can bump these. As far as I know, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible. Well, I don't want to say impossible, because in our career field, there's always ways somehow for things. So it's extremely difficult to bump as well as pick these types of locks.
And
so
what are they called? Dimple locks?
Dimple locks, or even a 6 or 7 pin core. Most of your standard residential and padlocks are 4 and 5 pin. But if you get something that's even more pins, it takes a lot longer for an attacker to open those.
Yep.
Yeah, which is time is their enemy. Got it.
Yeah. Again, path of least resistance. So you want to try to head that off. Motion sensors and lighting. Anytime, again, an attacker, or keep saying attacker, you know what I mean, the potential criminal that's trying to gain access, they see a dark area, they want to try to get into it. If they go back there, motion sensor turns on, chances are they're going to go somewhere else. So it doesn't have to be some huge elaborate thing. You just want something to let them know, hey, we've got stuff here. Now you're no longer in the dark. So just anything can be a deterrent as far as that goes.
And you can have your timers and such. I kind of think of Home Alone with the bandits there. They're talking about predicting when the timers are. So try to switch that up. Don't make that consistent when you do. So other things too. We mentioned before, let me go back here. We mentioned before, and Mike, I think you actually mentioned it. Landscaping and such is super important. So plants. Crown of thorns, agave, barberry, blackberry bushes. Those are just a few. There's a plethora of plants out there that are thorny and that are difficult to go through or stand in. So putting those below your windows, around perimeters, sides of your home, around drain pipes, trestling. Something that makes it difficult for somebody to scale a drain pipe or climb into your window. So plants are both beautiful and dangerous. So
just plant a bunch of poison ivy around your house. No, please don't do that.
No,
dogs.
Please do it.
or do it, and let me know how it works out when you have to trim your landscaping. Why can't I keep a gardener? I don't know. So. Dogs are great, obviously. Again, path of least resistance. If a criminal knows you have a dog, they're likely going to go to the next house that they know does not have a dog, because dogs bark, they alert, which is a great thing.
Let me add to this too. You don't have to have a dog. You can get a big dog bowl. If you have a friend that's got a big dog, let them chew on that bowl and some bones and stuff. Scatter that around your yard so that it looks, and buy a beware of dog sign. It's a deterrent. If the criminal thinks that you have a big dog there, and maybe you have a little tiny dog, or maybe you don't at all. It's a good deterrent.
Or buy the dog toys for the very large dogs, and just get them really dirty and rip chunks out of them and stuff, and leave that on your front porch. Things like that.
We know a serial rapist who has 85 victims, and one of the tips that he gave to people was to buy a size 12 or 13 pair of army boots from the thrift store, cover them with mud, and put them unlaced on the back porch. So things like that. And of course, we don't want to make people paranoid. We just want to be safe. And of course, lighting is still the thing I keep going back to for most of us to make our homes more safe. But guys, this is incredible, and we're going to have you back.
Sure.
I want to open it up and just give people another chance to ask you questions while you touch on one or two final things before Chris and I go into some other things, and make sure that if they do have questions, they've got a moment to ask those, because there have been a lot of them coming through.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've got a lot of content. These are things that we could talk about probably for hours, just through things that we've seen, things that we've had to report on, through work, or we could definitely talk all day long about this stuff. So
Yeah, let's take some questions.
Yeah, so let's.
Well, we're teeing them up, Mike. So I have a question for you. So cell phone. So Mike and I deal a lot with some really bad guys, right? And is there a way, let's say somebody has access to a victim's phone, to keep it pinging, even to show that that person may be at a different location, even though that person may not be at that location? Is there a backdoor through Google or something like that?
Well, so you mean as far as like someone trying to trick as to where their location is?
Yeah, so let's say you had a homicide suspect and they happen to have the victim's phone and they want to pretend that the victim is at a different location, and they're pinging that phone
so
at various places. Yep.
There are applications that you can put on a phone to spoof GPS.
It's possible.
It is possible. Yeah, I would
yeah,
say
I don't really want to get into specifics on things
right.
like that, but
Right.
it is possible.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, so this is something, and Mike's just having an internet thing here. He'll be right back here. That's why you got to hang out at hotels. We had a question up there. Metal clamps. Do you put those on window tracks?
Yeah, actually, I actually have different ones that I've tested and tried. Those things are great. It's a quick and a bit more fancy version than using a dowel rod, sticking a piece of wood in your window. But yeah, if you get the metal clamps, just make sure they're really tight and not going anywhere. But yeah, those are great if you install them properly.
That's awesome.
And they're cheap. There
are a couple of things that I definitely wanted to touch on too. Like, so social media, make sure you're careful what you post on there. Don't say, "Hey, I'm going to Disney World," as you're going to Disney World, or things like that. You're letting people know that you're away from your home, so don't do that. Be careful what you post. Check your mailbox. Make sure it's not overflowing. You can have your neighbors park their cars in front of someone you trust. Have your neighbors park their car in your parking lot if you'd like, or if you have an extra car, it's always kind of handy. But I wanted to touch on this because I know, Chris, you're in a hotel, and most hotels have these Hoover handles here. So this is a tool that Brent and I use quite often called the under the door tool, and it's well known. Criminals use it too. It's an easy way. You just slide it underneath the door. You'll see here it's a piece of wire with a string on it. And then the wire goes over, hooks onto that. You pull the string, it bends that wire as it opens the door from the inside.
So
awesome.
even if that door is locked because of fire codes and things, even if that door is locked, if you are on the inside of your room and you pull that handle, it's going to unlock it for you. So it's the same thing. If you're on the external side of the door and you're using that tool, the door thinks that you're opening it from the inside and, okay, this is supposed to be open right now. It doesn't know any better. It's just doing what it's supposed to do. So some quick tips on that. This is a lock that I travel with. I travel with a few different ones depending on, and I'll use them depending on the door setup. So if you want to go back real quick, Tim, this particular one, you stick it in the door where in the strike plate, where the door stripe and the plunger meet. So, and then you just connect it, and there's no way for someone to open that door, but you can quickly remove it if you need to get out of your room. The next slide is another thing that I use. If someone does utilize under the door tool against that lever handle, you can see wrapped around the lock for the deadbolt, it's just a nice piece of Velcro, and you wrap it around a few times. It's super quick to install. It prevents that from being turned. So now an under the door tool is useless. If you don't have any of those and you're in a pinch, grab a hand towel, make it really, really tight, and squeeze it behind that door.
Oh, that's
That way, if a tool does come up, it's going to be a lot harder for it to get behind that handle for the tool to work. So
okay, I'm doing that tonight.
Absolutely.
No, I'm serious. I've got
No,
my Glock. I've got Mr. Glock just in case, but you know,
That's always a good plan B.
This is great. This is great. I'm sitting in a hotel.
Oh, yeah. So, and I know we're short on time, but if you go to wehackpeople.com, I think there was a link on one of those slides, but I'll just go ahead and tell you. We have a full blog post on hotel security, on how to increase your security while you're traveling. And this focuses on hotels. It doesn't focus on getting to your hotel and traveling, things like that. This is specifically for your hotel, your room. So there's a lot of things. We have a lot of links so that the locks that I showed, we have the links to those things to purchase them easily on Amazon. So we try to make it as straightforward for you as we can to find that information. So yeah, that's the under travel safety. And we have quite a bit of information like that on there.
And don't always trust the safes in those hotels either. They're not always the best. Sometimes you can get a coat hanger and there's a little hole in the back and you can hit it, or you can bang the top of it.
Yeah, hit it real hard.
There's a lot of ways to do that. So don't put too much stock into those hotel room safes. If you have to, go to your car and put it in your trunk. Probably a little bit safer spot for some of your valuables. So make sure the hotel, it's not the kind of hotel that if somebody comes up and say, hey, drenched from the swimming pool and says, hey, I left my key in my room and my pants, can you let me in? Make sure that hotel is asking for your last name and some kind of form of ID or maybe an escort, because people will do that. I know this from personal experience, that people will say, they'll find out what room you're in and they'll say your last name, or hey, my name is Brent White, and I locked myself out of room 309. Sorry, I kind of forgot my pants up there. Can you help me out? And they'll take you up there and let you into that room. So be careful with that.
Yeah, and we detail that in the blog post that we just showed. So I know that we're pretty much out of time, unfortunately. So
yeah. So guys, how do we have people get a hold of you, and do you want people to get a hold of you offline?
Yeah, one of the reasons we do this, we want to help people become more safe, whether it's their business or personal security. So we're more than happy to answer questions.
Yeah, and if you pull up the slide there, if you want to reach to us directly on Twitter, there's our Twitter handles under our names there. But the best way to reach us is wehackpeople.com. Our contact information is on there. We're happy to answer questions. Don't feel silly either. I don't think there's any kind of ever a dumb question.
Nope.
Especially when it comes to security. Like I know a lot of guys in this field might be a little come off a little cocky or whatever, but that's not the way to do it. And helping out and helping people learn about these things and how to prevent it, how to remediate against it, compensating controls, etc., is definitely what Brent and I's goal is in security awareness.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Brent, Tim, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope that you have a wonderful holiday season. If you celebrate Hanukkah, I hope that was a great event for you this year. I know it ended a few days ago. And for those that celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to them. But to you guys, thanks so much. You're welcome to hang around in the back room and watch while we wrap up. But really can't thank you enough. So have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great meeting you guys. Great meeting you guys.
Yeah, you too.
We'll
hope
do this
you
again.
get a good night's sleep in your hotel room.
Oh yeah.
Sleeping with a gun under his pillow.
Mr. Glock.
So hey, I want to take a minute and just thank all of our mods who have been helping out tonight. You are such amazing people, and we really appreciate what you do there. I hope that tonight was informative for you. Chris, what'd you think of those guys? I mean, amazing.
Mike, it never ceases to amaze me the knowledge that is out there, and to think that this stuff, when these guys go to people who are inclined to do bad things, it's great to have guys like that to offset the reality of there's always a give and take, right? A black and a white, and but yeah, no, they're fantastic. It's great to meet them. And
I thought it was so interesting. I watched these guys on television on the movies. They pull two things out and they go like this, and the door pops open. And Tim's over there doing the same thing while he's talking, And so part of me was always thinking that was Hollywood Hoke, and but no, I mean that's what these guys get paid to do, is go to major corporations and expose all the vulnerabilities that the organization has. And I think what a great service they pay. It's just amazing. But why don't we take a few minutes and just see if anybody's got any questions that folks may have tonight as we do this.
Somebody put up. Gem Cat says they're talking locks. Chris is talking Glocks.
There we go. That's pretty good.
That is good. Very cool.
Hey, and folks, if you do have a question, put it up. And I want the back office just to put up a little video that popped up this week, just one segment of it if you can. And I mean, it's always important that we take a good laugh at ourselves too. So as they get an opportunity, maybe the back office can bring that up. One of the YouTubers out there created this little video, and it was pretty funny. And so maybe we'll be able to. Oh, here it is, right here.
All right.
Well, there it was. What'd you think? It was pretty.
That was great. Unbelievable.
The back office is cranking just like my computer.
Just like
smooth sailing. So the question from Miss Sophia though is: are we going to stream during between Christmas and New Year's? And let me tell you what, Darcy Ann, thank you so much. Before we start this video, with God. Duty Ron and the two of us, Chris. But folks, holy cow, hang on to your seats, because tomorrow night we're going to be on with the Adventures with Purpose people, Jared and his team, discussing the Randy Leach case. We're then going to go right from there. We're going to leave Adventures with Purpose, and we're going to put together a special Profiling Evil segment. Jared's going to come and join us on that. We're going to talk about a new case that we're going to be looking into. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk about a third case that we're going to be looking into in collaboration with the Adventures with Purpose guys. We're going to let them go underwater, do their thing, all that wacky stuff that Jared's team does. And Chris and I are going to stay safe on the surface where we can do what we're good at. So make sure you're joining that. Then next Monday we're going to be broadcasting choir practice again, and you're not going to want to miss this. We're going to have the Officer Down Memorial Page people, good friend of mine who manages that. He's a law enforcement officer right now, full time, but he started this page. Chris, we are at a almost 100% increase on officer deaths this year.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It is mostly COVID related, but we're going to be talking about all the men and women who have died in the line of duty this year next week. So, Sophia, I hope you'll join with us then, and that you will all take advantage of that moment in time to really thank police. And if you saw my message today, if you see a police officer out on the street, take a moment and just thank them. And now let's give you a little holiday cheer from one of our wonderful friends in the YouTube community.
Run so loud and proud, you hear it. It's Christmas time and we got the spirit. Jack for chillin', the hawk is out, and that's what Christmas is all about. My name's DMC with the mic in my hand, and I'm chillin' and coolin' just like a snowman. So open your eyes, let us in. We want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year!
Oh my goodness.
So we are so appreciative of that Twerks Laugh video.
That is hysterical.
She actually put a lot of work into those, and it was fun to be able to participate. Folks, we're going to give you just another minute if you got something you'd like to ask. Chris, I don't know if you got anything you want to end before Christmas with, and if not, we'll plan on tomorrow night being with Adventures with Purpose, and then immediately into our segment.
You know, the only thing I want to say, Michael, is two things. One, I love you like my brother. We're grateful that everybody has been supporting us through this adventure, and you know, just we told them in the beginning, right? I'd lower your property value, and it's been a great ride, and we're going to keep riding. And my Airstream was a little delayed though. It got stuck at the factory because of COVID. So I probably won't be hitting the road till March, but I'm still going to be living in different places. But to all of our mods, to all of our friends, to our new friends, we love you. We care about you. We're grateful that you're with us, and you know, please keep sharing you know, our content. And if you have some great ideas, Mike and I have been talking behind the scenes, you know, about some different things, and you know, putting some things together, and so you know, we're grateful that you're on this journey with us. And I do have a dog story though, real fast, because we were talking about dogs a minute ago, about the bones and stuff, or the balls. I was on a burglary call one time, and I walked into the building, and because I was a dog handler at the time, I smelled always like a dog. Okay, just ask my wife. Okay, that said, as I walked into this room, this little chihuahua came out of nowhere and nailed me on the boot, on the back of the boot. And I lifted my leg, and he was hanging on my boot. And I was like, you know, these things are worse than those big, gigantic dogs. So when he said the dogs, I was going to say, just get a Chihuahua. But I didn't get a chance to say that, so I just did.
Yes, you did.
Anyway, you know, God bless you guys. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, folks. We're at 39,500 subs. I cannot believe it.
Unbelievable.
And in my mind, I've got this fantasy that with your help, we can reach 50,000 by January 1. So that's my personal goal. And I can't tell you how exciting and how amazing it is to have your support. To the back office, thanks. To Brent and Tim, thanks for coming on. Our own Tim, if you didn't know, had his tonsils out this week, so he's missing in action, still sucking on lollipops and popsicles. And hopefully we'll get him back in the saddle soon. So until tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. Tyler,
I hope I'm out of prison by then, Mike. If I may jump in late, because if I'm still in jail out here.
We'll start.
Okay.
Watch the ticker there and the notification. But we'll be doing Adventures with Purpose first tomorrow night at I believe 5 o'clock Pacific, somewhere around there. And following that, it will be here on Profiling Evil. We look forward to seeing you all then. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.